Hey guys, how you all doing? Today's video is all about packing your pack. Yes, there is a method to the madness to make sure your pack is actually comfortable while you're wearing it, and that the items you want to take out during your hike are easily accessible and you don't have to rummage through your entire pack to get there. These things are especially true when you are using something like a lightweight frameless pack which doesn't have dozens of pockets, like the fancy framed packs that you can get with pockets everywhere that can really easily segregate things. When you're dealing with one main compartment and a few side pockets, you really do have to put a little bit more thought as to how you're packing to prevent having to unpack everything to reach that item, and also make sure nothing's poking you in the back or making your pack lopsided and uncomfortable. So in this video I'm going to share with you how I pack my pack with the gear I have. You can check out what gear I have in a little bit more detail in other videos down below in the description. And I'm going to tell you why I pack it this way. So there is a little bit of method to my madness when it comes to packing. So let's get started. Okay, so there are two main principles when it comes to packing your pack. Number one is weight and size. You want items which are bigger and heavier to go towards the bottom of your pack and closer to your center of gravity, meaning closer to your midline, hence why lower, and as close as possible to your body as well. So you don't have this massive weight further away from your center of gravity, being higher up and away from your back, amplifying or magnifying, probably a better word, that actual weight. If you think of picking an object up, it's a lot easier to pick up closer to your center of gravity than it is to pick it up further away from your center of gravity. So same thing when you're carrying your gear, you want the heavier stuff as close to you as possible. It's going to have be much more comfortable in the long run. Number two is your, I guess, frequency of use for a particular item. So something that you use a fair bit should be much more easily accessible or on top rather than being buried down below. I'm not going to use my camping quilt very often, really only when I get to camp. So I'm not going to have it at the very top of my pack and have to unpack it every time I want to reach something else. I'm going to have it right down the bottom. And vice versa, if I want to get to my compass or something multiple times a day, I'm going to have that really easily accessible and not buried somewhere else inside my pack. So using those two principles, let's put stuff inside my pack, and I'll explain what I'm putting in when and kind of my thinking behind it. So being a frameless pack, I'm going to start off by adding a bit of a frame to my pack. I do this with my sit pad. So this is just some Thermarest Z-Lite foam cells which I've cut up. This doubles as a butt pad that I use in the morning and at night for camp when I'm sitting down for a little bit longer. It makes life a little bit more comfortable, but it also fits perfectly inside of my MLD Burn, which is a 38-litre pack. It adds a bit of frame to the pack, and it makes it a lot more comfortable to carry. It also prevents any kind of weird or funky sharp bits poking through and being uncomfortable when I'm actually carrying my pack. So that goes in first, followed closely by my quilt. So again, something that I'm not going to use until I get to camp, can be right down the bottom. It's also a reasonably heavy item, so that'll go in straight afterwards and sit right at the bottom of my pack. Cool. Next up, another item I'm not going to use, or a couple of items I'm not going to use until I get to camp, are my shelter and sleeping setup. So I already put my quilt in there. I've got my MLD Duo Mid, my shelter. I've got my bivvy, my ground sheet, my sleeping pad, also my tent pegs. So they will all go in next. There's no real particular order. Usually it's my MLD tent, which will sit closest to my back, and then my bug bivvy, which will sit a little bit further away because it is lighter. So again, using that principle there. And then my ground sheet will sit further out still, because again, it is a bit lighter. Next up, I'll put my sleeping pad. So again, that'll be a little bit closer to my back, and I'll put something up on top of it, which will be lighter. These bigger items also help to form a bit of a frame inside the pack, which again gives it a little bit more stability and a little bit more comfort, being a frameless pack up against my bag, up against my back. Cool, so that's those items in there. The temp pole, pegs rather, I can't forget those. So that'll go in there. Okay. Next up will usually be, I don't remember which is which, I think this will use as my spare clothes. So my spare clothes to me are my sleeping clothes. So clothes I don't need until I get to camp, that I'm going to change into. So my thermal, my dry socks, etc. So they'll go in next. So to be fair, they could probably go in before my sleeping equipment, etc., because I'm going to set up my shelter before I get changed. But my clothes are lighter than all that sleeping gear. So again, using that principle of having the heavier stuff down lower and closer to my back, that's why I packed those first. And then my clothes, which are usually a little bit lighter. Next up is my food. I don't actually have any food in here. This is just a bag with a pillow inside, but it simulates the kind of size and the shape, and the principle is there. That'll go in next. My food is usually something I'll have for breakfast and dinner. Usually on lunch I snack, but I do want to have this reasonably easily accessible, so it is quite up the top. Even though it can weigh a reasonable bit, I want to have it easily accessible. Closely followed behind is my cooking kit. My cooking kit is pretty light, so it doesn't need to be buried in the pack. And even though I won't usually stop and have a big meal for lunch, I will stop here and there when I have rests at a really nice location and make some coffee or some tea. So I like to have my cooking kit pretty easily accessible. So that goes right towards the top. The last item which will go inside my main compartment is my down jacket. So my winter jacket, being a winter camper, if I do stop for a period of time, it is probably going to get pretty cold pretty quick. So I want this in a place which I can really quickly get and really quickly shove back inside my pack. And that's why it doesn't go into a spare clothes bag or anything like that. This just kind of fills any empty space inside my pack. It also prevents things shifting, moving and rattling around. So if there's any kind of loose or free space, that down jacket kind of packs everything in a little bit tighter and fills any additional space to prevent any of that kind of moving and shifting around. And that is pretty much it for my outside, or for my main compartment rather. I'll squeeze everything in a little bit tighter, lock that down, lock that down. Perfect. We'll do my outside compartment next. So depending on the weather, if it is not likely to rain, beautiful clear blue skies, my poncho will go in right towards the bottom, like so. Don't need to get it. If it is potentially going to rain, I actually carry my poncho slightly differently, or it'll sit a little bit higher up on the netting. But regardless, for now, we'll put it there. Next up, probably my ditty bag. So just kind of spare cables. I think I've got a lighter in there, my head torch, earplugs, etc. Items I don't need that much or that often. That'll go down the bottom. Toiletries, first aid kit towards the top, so if I do need it, I can get it nice and easy. And my water purification kit will be quite easily accessible as well. And that is my outside, my back mesh pocket. So now I can lock all this down, and that is packed. Side pockets are next. They contain water bottles, so I normally have 2 of these, one on each side. I've only got one with me at the moment, but you get the idea. I'll also have my tent pole. So this is for, again, the MLD Duo Mid single tent pole design. I don't often carry trekking poles. I prefer the tent pole, and that'll sit on the outside there. That can be kind of secured by the lid a little bit if I want to, but that's generally quite stable and not going anywhere. And again, another bottle usually on this side. On the shoulder straps, with these pockets here, these carry my 500ml soft water bottles. I don't have them with me at the moment, but that's just extra water carrying capacity. And then finally, I've got 2 hip belt pockets. So one is for little bits of gear that I want to get quickly and I use often. The other is for snacks on the trail. So I've got some almonds here, but they can be all sorts of snacks. That'll go in there. And then other bits of gear. So I've got some hand sanitizer. That'll go in there. Some sunscreen, some lip balm, a spare lighter I like to have handy, and also a pocket knife. Stuff like a compass I'll carry actually in my pants pocket, but that is that. That's my pack, all packed, ready to go. If you have any questions, any suggestions, any tips, advice, whatever, leave them down in the comments. I love to read them and I'm always looking out for new ideas and ways to do things. So yeah, leave them down the bottom. If I missed anything, again, leave it down the bottom. I'll answer your question as soon as I can. But regardless, I hoped that helped. If anything, you saw how somebody else packed their pack. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, happy trails.